Hi everybody, my name is Ligeia Lugli. I'm here to present the results of a study my colleagues and I conducted at the Mangalam Research Center thanks to funding from the US National Endowment for the Humanities. The focus of this study is Buddhist Sanskrit, a domain-specific variety of Sanskrit characterized by specialized vocabulary, strong vernacular influences, and abundant spelling variation. In this study, we use the label Buddhist Sanskrit to refer to the language of Buddhist Sanskrit literature in general, regardless of the level of vernacular influence instantiated in individual texts. So our definition includes, but is not limited to, what is usually referred to as Buddhist hybrid Sanskrit. The goal of this study is to evaluate the performance of different word embedding models on a historical corpus of Buddhist Sanskrit literature. This is important for us as it paves the way for practical application of these models in Buddhist Sanskrit lexicography later down the line, but we hope that our result will also prove useful to other scholars working with historical corpora of relatively small size. We used two corpora, both rather small. One is the Buddhist Sanskrit corpus itself, which is about 6.7 million words and comprises texts mostly dated from the period between the 2nd century before the Common Era up to the 12th century. It includes various genres, but as the figure here shows, most texts fall into the categories of sutra and shastra, that's to say, scriptures and philosophical treatises. The second corpus is a corpus of general Sanskrit, which we used for pre-training purposes. This corpus is roughly double the size of the Buddhist Sanskrit corpus. Most of its texts date from the 6th to the 12th century, and again, most texts are Shastra, that is, philosophical treatises. For contextual embeddings, we used two methods, BERT and GPT-2. We expected differences in performance due to their respective model sizes and pre-training objectives. We also used two training regimes. In one, we only trained on the Buddhist Sanskrit corpus. In the other, we pre-trained the models on the general Sanskrit corpus first. We also tested three embedding generation regimes, averaging the first 6 encoder layers, the last 4 encoder layers, and all encoder layers. The embeddings are averaged across the corpus on the level of words lemma, and the final representation is a single word type level embedding for each word's lemma. For static embedding models too, we tested two different algorithms, fast text and word-to-vec. For both, we performed hyperparameter optimization and compared the optimized model with the model trained using hyperparameters from related work. More on this later on. We evaluated our models on two tasks, a morphological analogy task and a semantic similarity task. For the analogy task, we prepared 24 sets of lemmata, each containing 5 morphologically related lemmata derived from a single root, a verb, a past participle, a noun, an action noun in ana, and an agentive noun in. For example, for the root klip, we have kalp, kalpita, kalpa, kalpana, and kalpin. Since few roots appear in the corpus in all 5 forms, and some of these forms are quite rare, our analogy dataset is small and includes low-frequency lemmata. For the semantic similarity task, we had 4 annotators rating the semantic similarity of 98 pairs of frequent nouns on a scale from 0 to 6. The score of one of the annotators were then discarded due to low inter-annotator agreement. It is important to note that it is extremely difficult to gauge semantic similarity for historical languages that have no native speakers, especially for languages such as Sanskrit, where words tend to display a great degree of polysemy. To facilitate the task and ensure a degree of consistency between annotators, we asked them to focus on the sense a word typically expresses in Buddhist texts and to take into account contextual and paradigmatic relations as well as purely semantic intuition. This, however, does not resolve all discrepancies in annotation. For example, both words in the pair gati-marga are used to lexicalize the concept of road, and both may occur in similar contexts. Still, marga often refers to the path to liberation from the cycle of rebirths, while gati often means the type of existence into which one is reborn, thus being almost antithetical to marga. Two annotators emphasized the similarity between these two words, and two highlighted the difference. Keeping in mind thus the somewhat problematic nature of semantic similarity datasets for ancient languages, let's proceed to review our evaluation settings. Here is the evaluation setting we used for the analogy task. Given a triplet of words, where the first pair defines a relationship, the model has to retrieve the word which stands in that same relationship with a third word. For example, given the noun kalpa, the verb kalp, and the noun smriti, the model has to retrieve the verb corresponding to the noun smriti, which is smar. In case you wonder, we lemmatize verbs to the present stem of the third person singular. We tested three relationships: verb to past participle, verb to noun, and noun to past participle. For each relationship, all possible triplets from the analogy datasets were constructed for a total of 552 triplets per task. For semantic similarity, given two words, the task is to give them a similarity score. Similarity is measured as quasi similarity, thus ranging from 0 to 1. The model's scores are then compared to the annotator scores using correlation analysis. Here are the results for the analogy task. BERT pre-trained on the general Sanskrit corpus yielded the best results. Pre-training also proved beneficial with GPT-2, although overall GPT-2 performed much worse than BERT, which is in line with our expectations and is probably due to overfitting. The different embedding construction regimes we used gave mixed results, with the best results sometimes coming from using all encoder layers and sometimes from using the last 4 encoder layers. And we will see in the next slide that using the first 6 layers worked best for the semantic similarity task. For semantic similarity, static embeddings outperformed contextual ones, with fast text performing best and word-to-vec coming a close second. Still, BERT pre-trained on the general Sanskrit corpus with embeddings constructed from the first 6 layers achieved results comparable with static word embeddings. Again, GPT-2 performed worse. One thing to note is that for static word embeddings, hyperparameter optimization did not lead to significant improvement of the results. Here is our analysis of the impact of such optimization. For fast text, embedding dimension had the greatest impact on performance. Continuous bag of words models tend to outperform skipgram, and lowering the minimum length of subwords correlates with better performance, possibly by allowing the model to cover a larger proportion of out-of-vocabulary words. For word-to-vec, the choice of model had the greatest effect on performance, with again continuous bag of words producing the best results. Interestingly, larger training epochs correlate with better models, which may suggest that word-to-vec is less prone to overfitting and thus relatively robust for training on small corpora. In sum, contextual word embeddings, especially fast text, produce the best results for semantic similarity, and hyperparameter optimization did not produce significantly better static embedding models. BERT proved best for the analogy task, and for contextual embeddings in general, pre-training on a corpus of general Sanskrit proved beneficial. As we come to a close, I would like to express my gratitude to Bruno Galasek-Hall, Luis Quiñones, and Jai Paranjpe for their help in preparing the evaluation datasets we used, And of course, thank you to you all for listening.